Fletcher Rhoden, and this is Quotes and Quips. Today, words of wisdom from Groucho Marx. Quotes and Quips is brought to you by my website, FletcherRhoden.com. That's where you'll find links to my author's page at Amazon.com. That's where you can buy my books in paperback or for Kindle or in audiobook format. There's also a link to my Spotify artist page. There you can download my music in its various subgenres. I've got new music for 2024. Now you can download the music from websites all over the internet. And if you go to the website, there's free music that you can get only there. So, today, words of wisdom from Groucho Marx. He said, "Keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out." Keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out. So what did he mean? Well, imagine this fellow from a different generation growing old and curmudgeonly while people around him were taking mind-expanding drugs and exchanging fanciful notions which to him seemed very alien. The reach of communism, maybe, and fascism. And even though they were coming from the mouths of innocent young people, they still must have sounded to him very strange. So it might have seemed to Groucho a relic of, the Depression era, that in the 60s, when he was alive and working, people had become so open-minded that their brains were falling out. It also reminds me of the quote, if you're under 30 and you're conservative, then you have no heart. But if you're over 30 and liberal, then you have no brain. So I'm reminded of that quote. I'm not sure who said that. But Groucho's bit reminds me of that. Because to be open-minded is to be liberal, but people take things to extremes. And in fact, they do also on the conservative side. People in any big group who are open-minded at first to the notions of that group can oftentimes become embroiled and ensconced and inundated and flooded and overtaken by that group and its ethos. So there, at first I was curious, and then I got brainwashed. Don't be so open-minded that your brains fall out. Being open-minded is fine, but don't lose track of your critical thinking. Critical thinking is a skill set I talked about in my book, Tracking the Lone Wolf, The Sigma at Work, at Home, and at Play. It's available in paperback or for Kindle or in audiobook format, read by the author. And it talks about things like active listening, critical thinking. Critical thinking is not just being critical of people or seeing the bad side of things. Critical thinking is about active listening, which means you're absorbing the information, you're recording it in your mind, you're storing it for use, you're using the information to discern a problem, and then you're going to use your instinct and your experience to find a corrective solution and a way to implement it. So that's how critical thinking works. You're listening. I had a quote on the show that a lot of people listen not with the intent to understand, but with the intent to reply. And that is contrary to the edicts of active listening. Well, critical thinking is like active listening. It's thinking with purpose. Active listening is listening with a purpose, and it's part of the cognitive thinking skill set, which is thinking with purpose. And I think what Groucho was reminding us is, don't forget to do that. As open-minded as you may be, don't forget to think with purpose. As whimsical as you may be, don't abandon practicality. And here's a guy who knew whimsy very well, but was also apparently very practical in his personal life. So, the quote means a lot. As always, it's a two-parter. not as always. But a lot of these quotes come in two discernible parts. And the first half, be open-minded, that's positive. But not so open that your brains fall out. That's cynical. But that mix of optimism and pessimism is characteristic of Groucho Marx. Also, I would say the wordplay that we see here. Open-minded, but not so open that your brains fall out. It's a real visual thing. It's a play on words to a certain extent, because open-minded does not mean being open-skulled, you know. And wordplay is a staple of Groucho's career, really, throughout even his movies and in his TV show and in his many interviews with the like of Dick Cavett. If you don't know Groucho Marx, check him out online. One of the greats. And if you'd like to know more about all this, why don't you come back here? I'm here every Monday at noon. I leave up the reruns, so you can always go back and watch them and check out other things I've talked about, other quotes about which I've made other quips. Then you can also watch Tracking the Lone Wolf. That's another show that's on YouTube on its own channel called Tracking the Lone Wolf. And go to my website and check out my books and my music and come back here for more. Until then, bye, Mary.